Part 1, The Frozen Arrival. The storm's howl. The wind screamed across the frozen expanse of Outpost Sigma 9, a remote Arctic research station perched on the edge of the world. Commander Ethan Hale stood in the control room, his breath visible in the frigid air as he monitored the station's systems. The temperature outside had plummeted to -70 degrees Celsius, a new record in a winter that seemed determined to break every one. The station's reinforced walls groaned under the strain of the relentless storm, and Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. The crash. A sudden ping from the radar snapped Ethan out of his thoughts. An unidentified object was descending rapidly, its trajectory erratic. Before he could react, the sky lit up with a blinding flash, and the ground shook violently as something massive crashed into the ice less than a kilometer away. Alarms blared throughout the station, and Ethan grabbed his gear, his heart pounding. First contact. Venturing into the storm, Ethan fought against the biting wind and driving snow. The crash site was a scene of chaos. A deep trench carved into the ice led to a sleek, alien craft partially buried in the snow. Its surface shimmered with an otherworldly glow, and as Ethan approached, a section of the craft hissed open, revealing a cockpit. Inside, a figure stirred weakly. Ethan's breath caught in his throat as he got his first clear look at the pilot. The being was humanoid but unlike anything he'd ever seen. Their skin had a translucent, opalescent quality, shifting colors like the aurora borealis. Delicate tendrils, resembling fiber-optic cables, flowed from their head, and their eyes, when they opened, were filled with swirling galaxies. A plea for help. Help, the alien spoke, their voice echoing directly in Ethan's mind. My thermal regulators are failing. I cannot survive your world's cold. Ethan didn't hesitate. I'm Commander Ethan Hale. There's a research station nearby. Can you walk? The alien, Nissa, as they introduced themselves, attempted to rise but collapsed. My species requires much higher temperatures. The crash damaged my environmental systems. I am Nissa, a research pilot from the Stellar Concord. Please, you must help me. A dangerous journey. With great effort, Ethan lifted Nissa and began the grueling trek back to the station. The alien was surprisingly light, but the cold was taking its toll. By the time they reached the medical bay, Nissa's skin had lost most of its luminescence. Ethan activated the emergency heating protocols, transforming the room into a makeshift sauna. As warmth flooded the chamber, color slowly returned to Nissa's remarkable skin. Thank you, they communicated telepathically. But I must warn you, I did not crash here by accident. Something is coming, Commander Hale. Something that threatens both our species. And I believe this frozen wasteland holds the key to stopping it. The first signs of danger. Ethan looked out the window at the alien craft, now almost completely buried in snow. The storm outside seemed to grow stronger, as if nature itself knew that this was just the beginning. Nissa's warning echoed in his mind, and he realized that his world had changed forever. As the station system stabilized, Nissa recovered enough to move around, though they still required significantly higher temperatures than a human would find comfortable. The medical bay had become their makeshift command center, its heating systems pushed to their limits. Your world's cold is unlike anything in my experience, Nissa communicated, their ethereal form casting subtle patterns of light on the walls. Even the void between stars feels warmer. A growing threat. Ethan handed Nissa a cup of steaming liquid that glowed faintly, a substance they had synthesized from their ship's emergency supplies. You still haven't told me what brought you here, he said. What's this threat you mentioned? Before Nissa could respond, the station's perimeter alarms screamed to life. Both rushed to the observation window, where massive shapes moved in the darkness. They resembled polar bears, but no bear grew to such size, and none had eyes that glowed with an eerie red light. The corruption has already begun, Nissa's mental voice carried an edge of fear. My people call them the Frosted. They were once normal creatures of your world, but something is changing them, transforming them into weapons. Ethan grabbed his rifle, though something told him conventional weapons would have little effect on these monsters. What's causing it? There is an artifact, Nissa explained. Ancient technology from a civilization that preceded both our species. It was lost on Earth millennia ago, buried in these ice fields. It's awakening now, and its energy is warping all it touches. My mission was to find it before this happened, but I was too late. A race against time. The creatures drew closer, their massive claws leaving deep gouges in the reinforced walls of the station. Ethan estimated at least 5 of them, each the size of a small tank. The backup generator sputtered and died, plunging them into darkness broken only by the gentle glow of Nissa's skin. The main generator, Ethan said, already moving. If we can restart it, we can power up the station's defense systems. The cold will kill me if I leave this room, Nissa responded, their light dimming at the mere thought. Ethan paused at the door. Then guide me through it. You can maintain telepathic contact, right? Yes, Nissa replied after a moment. But the range is limited. If you go too far. Then don't let me go too far, Ethan said, checking his oxygen mask and thermal suit. Talk me through what I need to do. The journey through darkness. The journey through the darkened station was a nightmare of creeping shadows and distant roars. Nissa's voice in his mind was his only companion, directing him through the complex startup sequence of alien technology that had been integrated with the station's systems years ago. Your species found fragments of our technology over the centuries, Nissa explained as Ethan worked. Reverse-engineered them without understanding their true purpose. The generator you're trying to restart, it's powered by the same principles that drive my ship. And I'm guessing that artifact you mentioned is the source of the original technology, Ethan said, his fingers flying over the controls. Yes, Nissa replied. And if we don't find it first, those creatures out there are just the beginning. The artifact doesn't just corrupt organic life, it corrupts spacetime itself. The impossible weather you've been experiencing? That's only the first symptom. A narrow escape. The generator roared to life, power flooding back through the station. But the victory was short-lived. A massive claw smashed through the wall beside Ethan, missing him by inches. He rolled away, firing his rifle at the glowing red eyes that peered through the breach. The bullets might as well have been paper for all the effect they had. Run, Nissa's mental voice was urgent. The defense systems need time to power up. Get back to the medical bay. Ethan ran, the creature's roars shaking ice from the ceiling. He could hear them tearing through the station's outer walls, no longer trying to find a way in, they were simply going to tear the building apart. He reached the medical bay just as the defense turrets came online, their energy weapons slicing through the storm. The creatures retreated, but their roars promised they would return. Part 3, Descent into the Ice. The calm before the storm. The aftermath of the artifact's destruction brought a fragile peace to Outpost Sigma 9. The frosted creatures, now free from the artifact's corruption, had retreated into the frozen wilderness, their howls replaced by an eerie silence. The Stellar Concord ships had established a temporary base near the station, their sleek, otherworldly designs a stark contrast to the rugged Arctic landscape. Ethan Hale, still recovering from his near-fatal exposure to the cold, sat in the medical bay, staring out at the endless expanse of ice. Nissa, their luminescent skin glowing softly, entered the room, their presence a comforting reminder of the bond they had forged. "How are you feeling?" Nissa asked, their mental voice gentle. "Alive," Ethan replied with a faint smile. "Thanks to you." Nissa's tendrils shifted, a sign of amusement. "You humans are remarkably resilient. But we have much work to do." "Could there be another artifact?" Ethan asked, his brow furrowed. "Unlikely," Nissa replied. "But the artifact we destroyed was only one piece of a larger puzzle. The civilization that created it was vast, and their technology was far beyond anything we understand. It's possible that other remnants remain hidden beneath the ice. Ethan nodded, his mind racing. If that's the case, we need to find them before they fall into the wrong hands. But with the frosted still out there and the caverns unstable, it won't be easy. The expedition begins. The decision was made to send a small team into the caverns to investigate the energy signatures. Ethan, despite his recent ordeal, insisted on leading the mission. Nyssa, their unique biology and knowledge of the artifact's technology, would accompany him. The team was rounded out by 2 Concord scientists, Dr. Kale and Dr. Mira, and a human engineer, Lieutenant James Carter. The journey to the cavern entrance was uneventful, the storm having finally subsided. The entrance itself was a gaping maw in the ice, its walls smooth and unnaturally symmetrical. As they descended, the temperature dropped sharply, and the air grew thin. "Stay close," Ethan warned, his breath visible in the cold air. "We don't know what's down here." The ancient tunnels. The tunnels were a labyrinth of ice and stone, their walls etched with intricate patterns that seemed to shift and change as the team moved deeper. The energy signatures grew stronger, their pulses resonating through the ice like a heartbeat. "These patterns," Dr. Kale said, running a gloved hand over the wall. "They're not natural. They look like some kind of language. Or a map." The civilization that built this place was highly advanced. "They may have left clues to guide us." Ethan studied the patterns, his mind racing. If this is a map, then we need to figure out where it leads. But we don't have much time. The caverns are unstable, and the frosted could return at any moment. A chilling discovery. As they pressed deeper into the caverns, the team stumbled upon a massive chamber, its ceiling lost in darkness. At the center of the chamber stood a structure unlike anything they had ever seen, a towering monolith of ice and metal, its surface covered in the same intricate patterns as the tunnels. "This is it," Nyssa said, their mental voice filled with awe. "This is the source of the energy signatures." Ethan approached the monolith cautiously, his hand resting on the hilt of his energy weapon. "What is it?" "A repository," Nyssa replied. "A storage facility for the civilization's knowledge and technology. But it's been sealed for millennia. We need to find a way to open it." The puzzle of the monolith. The team worked tirelessly to decipher the patterns on the monolith, their efforts hampered by the cold and the ever-present threat of the frosted. Dr. Mira, the team's linguist, made a breakthrough when she realized that the patterns were a form of binary code, each symbol representing a piece of information. "It's a lock," she said, her voice tinged with excitement. "A security system designed to keep the repository sealed. But if we can decode the patterns, we might be able to open it." Ethan nodded, his mind racing. "Do it. But be careful. We don't know what's inside." The repository opens. After hours of painstaking work, the team finally unlocked the monolith. With a deep, resonant hum, the structure began to shift, its surface rippling like liquid metal. A doorway appeared, revealing a chamber filled with strange, otherworldly devices. "This is incredible," Dr. Kale said, his voice filled with wonder. "The technology here, it's beyond anything we've ever seen." Nyssa entered the chamber, their luminescent skin casting a soft glow on the devices. "This is only the beginning. The civilization that built this place left behind more than just technology. They left behind their knowledge, their history. A hidden danger. The artifact corrupted them, just as it corrupted the frosted." Ethan frowned, his mind racing. "If that's true, then we need to be careful. We can't let the same thing happen to us." The frosted return. The team's exploration was cut short by the sound of distant roars. The frosted had returned, drawn by the energy signatures from the repository. The creatures were more aggressive than before, their crystalline forms glowing with an eerie red light. "We need to get out of here," Ethan said, his voice urgent. Now. The team gathered what they could from the repository, their movements frantic as the frosted CL. Part 2, The Corruption Begins. The frozen wasteland awakens. The storm outside Outpost Sigma 9 raged on, its howling winds a constant reminder of the harsh reality Ethan Hale and Nyssa faced. The station's defense systems had bought them some time, but the frosted creatures were still out there, lurking in the darkness. Ethan stood in the control room, staring at the radar screen as it flickered with static. The artifact's energy was interfering with their equipment, making it nearly impossible to track the creature's movements. Nyssa, their luminescent skin casting a soft glow in the dimly lit room, worked tirelessly to recalibrate the station's systems. The artifact's influence is growing, they communicated telepathically, their mental voice tinged with urgency. If we don't act soon, the corruption will spread beyond this region. A plan takes shape. Ethan turned to Nyssa, his breath visible in the cold air. We need to find that artifact. But with the frosted out there and the storm showing no signs of letting up, how do we even begin? Nyssa's tendrils shifted, a sign of deep thought. We can use the station's weather mapping equipment to scan for the artifact's unique energy signature. It won't be easy, the corruption distorts everything, but there's a pattern to the interference. The artifact appears to be calling to the frosted, like a beacon. Ethan nodded, pulling up a topographical map of the area on the main console. These caverns extend for miles under the ice. If I were hiding something that powerful, that's where I'd put it. He traced a route with his finger. There's an entrance 2 kilometers east of the station. But the temperature in those caves will be fatal to you within minutes, even with your suit. Nyssa's skin shifted to a deep purple, a sign of frustration. We don't have a choice. If we don't find the artifact, my people will destroy this entire region. And if the frosted reach it first, the consequences will be catastrophic. The first expedition. The next hour was a blur of activity as Ethan and Nyssa prepared for their expedition. They fused human and alien technology, creating a hybrid suit that would keep Nyssa's core temperature stable enough to survive the journey. The result was bulky and awkward, but it would have to do. The power cells will only last 6 hours, Nyssa warned as they adjusted the suit's settings. We need to move quickly. Ethan checked his gear, thermal suit, oxygen mask, and a modified energy weapon Nyssa had helped him construct from salvaged parts of their ship. Let's hope that's enough. They left through the station's emergency tunnel, emerging into a world of howling wind and complete darkness. Ethan's enhanced goggles cut through the gloom, revealing the ghostly landscape. Above them, the aurora borealis danced in impossible patterns, its colors distorted by the artifact's influence. The trek to the caverns. The journey to the cave entrance was arduous. Twice, they had to hide from patrolling frosted, pressing themselves into snowbanks as the massive creatures passed. Up close, Ethan could see how the artifact's energy had warped them. Their fur was crystallized, their flesh merged with ice, and their movements were accompanied by the sound of cracking glaciers. They were not meant to exist in this form, Nyssa communicated, their mental voice heavy with sorrow. The artifact's power is an abomination. It doesn't just change physical form, it rewrites the fundamental laws of nature around it. Ethan shuddered, not just from the cold. If it can do this to animals, what could it do to humans? Nyssa didn't answer, but their silence spoke volumes. The cavern entrance. The cave entrance loomed before them, a black maw in the white wasteland. Their helmet lights revealed walls of ancient ice, layers upon layers stretching back millennia. As they descended deeper, Ethan noticed strange patterns in the ice, geometric shapes that couldn't have formed naturally. These tunnels, he whispered, though Nyssa could hear his thoughts just fine. They're artificial, aren't they? Yes, Nyssa replied. The civilization that created the artifact, they had outposts all across the galaxy. This must have been one of them. They paused, their suits' heating systems humming as they worked to keep them alive. My people believe they destroyed themselves with their own technology, Nissa continued. Now, I fear we're about to discover exactly how. Part 4, The Artifact's Wrath. The aftermath of the repository. The team returned to Outpost Sigma-9 with fragments of the ancient technology and holographic recordings from the repository. The discovery was monumental, but it came with a heavy price. The Frosted, now more aggressive than ever, had been awakened by the team's intrusion into the caverns. Their eerie red eyes glowed in the darkness, a constant reminder of the danger that lurked just beyond the station's walls. Ethan Hale stood in the control room, his eyes fixed on the radar screen. The Frosted were gathering in greater numbers, their movements coordinated and deliberate. They're not just animals anymore, he muttered. They're learning. Adapting. Nissa, their luminescent skin casting a soft glow in the dimly lit room, joined him. The artifact's corruption is spreading. The Frosted are becoming more intelligent, more dangerous. We need to act quickly. A desperate plan. The team gathered in the station's command center, the holographic recordings from the repository playing on a loop. The images depicted the ancient civilization's rise and fall, their experiments with the artifact, and the catastrophic consequences of their hubris. We need to find the other repositories, Dr. Kale said, his voice filled with urgency. If we can piece together the artifact's history, we might be able to stop the corruption before it's too late. Ethan nodded, his mind racing, but the Frosted are blocking our path. We can't risk another expedition without a plan. Nissa stepped forward, their tendrils shifting with determination. There is another way. The repository contained schematics for a device, a beacon that can disrupt the artifact's energy field. If we can build it, we might be able to weaken the Frosted and buy ourselves some time. Building the beacon. The next few days were a blur of activity as the team worked tirelessly to construct the beacon. The device was a complex fusion of human and alien technology, its design based on the schematics from the repository. Lieutenant Carter, the team's engineer, took the lead, his hands moving with precision as he assembled the intricate components. This is unlike anything I've ever seen, Carter said, his voice filled with awe. The technology here, it's centuries ahead of anything we have. Nissa nodded, their luminescent skin casting a soft glow on the device. The civilization that built this was far more advanced than we can imagine. But their downfall serves as a warning. We must be careful not to repeat their mistakes. The beacon's test. The beacon was finally ready, its surface humming with energy. The team gathered in the station's observation deck, their eyes fixed on the Frosted as they patrolled the icy wasteland. This is it, Ethan said, his voice steady. Let's hope this works. Nissa activated the beacon, its energy field pulsing outward in a wave of light. The Frosted reacted immediately, their crystalline forms shuddering as the energy disrupted the artifact's corruption. The creatures howled in confusion, their movements becoming erratic and uncoordinated. It's working, Dr. Mira exclaimed, her voice filled with relief. But the victory was short-lived. The Frosted, though weakened, were not defeated. They retreated into the darkness, their glowing red eyes filled with a newfound intelligence. A new threat. As the team celebrated their small victory, a new threat emerged. The beacon's energy field had attracted the attention of something far more dangerous, a massive, crystalline creature that dwarfed even the largest of the Frosted. Its form was unlike anything they had ever seen, its body a swirling mass of ice and energy. What is that? Carter asked, his voice filled with fear. Nissa's tendrils shifted, a sign of deep concern. It's a guardian. A creation of the ancient civilization, designed to protect their technology. But the artifact's corruption has twisted it into something else entirely. The Guardian's attack. The Guardian moved with terrifying speed, its massive claws tearing through the ice as it advanced on the station. The team scrambled to defend themselves, their energy weapons barely slowing the creature down. We need to fall back, Ethan shouted, his voice urgent. "We can't fight this thing head-on." The team retreated into the station, the Guardian's roars shaking the walls. The creature's energy field disrupted the station's systems, causing lights to flicker and equipment to fail. A desperate stand. As the Guardian tore through the station's defenses, Ethan and Nyssa formulated a desperate plan. "We need to lure it away from the station," Ethan said, his voice steady. "If we can lead it into the caverns, we might be able to trap it." Nyssa nodded, their luminescent skin glowing with determination. "But we'll need to act quickly. The Guardian's energy field is disrupting the beacon. If it gets too close, the Frosted will regain their strength." The final gambit. Ethan and Nyssa ventured out into the icy wasteland, the Guardian hot on their heels. The creature's massive form loomed over them, its energy field crackling with power. They led it deep into the caverns, their movements frantic as they navigated the labyrinth of ice and stone. "This way," Ethan shouted, his voice echoing through the caverns. They reached a narrow passage, the walls closing in around them. The Guardian followed, its massive form scraping against the ice. As it entered the passage, Ethan and Nyssa activated a series of charges, causing the ceiling to collapse and trap the creature. The aftermath. The team returned to the station, their bodies battered and bruised but alive. The Guardian was trapped, its energy field contained within the caverns. The Frosted, weakened by the beacon's energy, had retreated into the darkness. "We did it," Carter said, his voice filled with relief. But Ethan knew their journey was far from over. The artifact's corruption was still out there, and the Frosted were growing stronger. "This is just the beginning," he said, his voice steady. "We need to find the other repositories and uncover the truth about the artifact. But we'll do it together." Nyssa nodded, their luminescent skin casting a soft glow on the team. "The ancient civilization's knowledge is our only hope. We must learn from their mistakes and ensure that their fate does not become ours."